When selling to residential or commercial clients, this one tip will have a dramatic impact on your conversion rate and will immediately save you a huge amount of wasted time in the selling process. It's one very simple tip. It's almost most important in my mind in commercial. And that is, but it will also help you in residential, and the tip is this. You need to know when you are selling who the decision maker is. It's very common that you are initially approached or initially deal with an individual that is doing nothing more than gathering information. That person is generally uninformed about exactly what the real decision maker wants or needs or what their tastes and desires are. So what often happens is when you are approached by this individual, they give you the details. They're generally giving you nothing more than bid spec. What do they want based on a sheet of paper and a sheet of punch items that this individual wants? But you don't hear, because you don't get to talk to this person, what their real decision-making criteria is. You don't get to hear about the problems that they've been having on the property. You don't, with the prior vendor. You don't get to hear that to them, the most important spot on the entire property is the entrance. Or the most important spot on the entire property is when you approach the multi-story building, it's the 10 giant flower pots in the front that have ornamental trees or have a huge flower arrangement. You don't hear that in those 10 pots, because they're not irrigated, they're constantly replacing those flowers and it constantly looks bad. You don't know that's their selling point because you spoke with someone that wasn't the decision maker. You don't hear the little clue that this person is really collecting 4 bids to comply with corporate office, but he likes the company they have now. And he doesn't usually directly tell you that, but you don't have any possible way to pick up on this. You don't find out what his buying criteria is. Everyone has buying criteria. And so, when you're having a conversation, you need to ask the individual which parties or whom exactly will be involved in making this final decision. Is it a board that votes on this? Are you and a purchasing manager? Are you and your spouse? Are you and someone else going to make this decision together? Who is it that might veto this decision? So for example, are you the final decision maker, or is it you and someone else? Because that someone else then has veto power. It's very important. So a lot of times in the sales process in different industries, there might be someone that qualifies the leads and they go out and they get the leads, and their job is to basically get leads and qualify those leads, identify the decision makers, identify the buying criteria, capture the key information, and basically verify that this lead is worth pursuing, that they're a high probability lead, so that the closer, the second person in the sales process, the guy that really comes in with the power and the knowledge that can get the deal closed and done, that he's not wasting any time whatsoever. This is really important to understand that. And so your job, because you might be doing all sides of the sales process, it's to qualify first, to make sure you have all parties so you don't waste all of your time, and then to understand what your real selling criteria is, or the buying criteria of the individual that you're dealing with is, so that again, you're not wasting your time doing measurements and estimates for something that you'll really never have a chance of winning. And also when you do present, so that the massive amount of time you spent putting together this proposal, you can spend the extra 30 minutes crafting it around the 5 buying criteria, the 5 buying points of the real decision maker. So, in summary, you need to make sure that you know who the real decision makers are. You need to deal with the real decision makers. That doesn't mean you have to deal with them all the time, but if you're going to give a proposal, you need to have them involved for at least some period of time, so that you can make sure you're truly delivering what they want, so that your bid even has a chance of being considered. So you need to filter down exactly who's involved in the buying process. You need to understand their buying criteria. You need to then present a crafted message proposal around that buying criteria. And if you skip those steps, you massively hurt your close percentage, and you massively waste a huge amount of your time. And think about your time from the 80-20 principle. The more you want to spend the maximum amount of your time on the highest probability sales. It is a waste of your time to waste your time on the low stuff, because you'll never sell it, and therefore you waste that time that you're wasting on the low probability sales is now not being applied to the high probability sales. The way you make a greater amount of money as a company or as a salesperson is to spend the massive amount of your time, as much of your time as absolutely possible, on the people that really are going to close. And that means you're spending time with decision makers. And so if you think about it from that perspective, you will save yourself a lot of pain and heartache, and you will greatly increase your revenue.